Have you ever felt attracted to someone who was theoretically completely outside your plans? Someone who, in theory, shouldn't affect you, but who makes your heart race every time they're near. I thought I was good at hiding things. I thought nobody noticed how I looked at him during practice, how my breathing changed when he walked past me in the locker room, how I made up excuses to stay late just to maybe have a few more minutes by his side. Turns out I was wrong. The team captain saw everything. And instead of confronting me, instead of exposing my secret to everyone, he asked me to stay after practice for some extra training. That night changed everything. Let me tell you who I am. My name is Alex. I'm 22 years old. I'm a physical education student, and I've been playing on the college volleyball team for 3 years. I'm not the best player, but I'm not the worst either. I'm that middle guy, you know? The one who participates, who tries hard, who's always present, but who's never the center of attention. And I've always liked that. Being invisible has its advantages, especially when you have a secret you can't let anyone discover. Because the problem is that I was in love with the team captain. And in a male locker room environment, in a team sport full of testosterone and competitiveness, that's not exactly information you want getting out. It's not that my teammates were openly prejudiced, but there was that implicit masculinity, that way of being that didn't leave much room for vulnerability. Constant jokes, teasing, that energy of people who need to prove something all the time. And me, I hid in that space, pretended I was just another one of the guys, laughed at jokes even when they hurt, and kept my feelings in the deepest place I could find inside myself. But Ethan was different. He was the captain, 25 years old in his last year of college, and everything I wasn't. Confident, charismatic, that type of person who walks into a room and naturally all eyes turn to him. It wasn't just about appearance, although he was physically impressive. 6'3" of defined muscles and perfect posture. It was the energy he radiated. A natural and magnetic masculinity that didn't need to prove anything to anyone. He commanded practices with authority, but also with kindness. He knew when to call someone out and when to give an encouraging pat on the back. He was the type of leader who makes you want to be better, not out of fear, but out of admiration. And I was completely lost in him. Every practice was exquisite torment. I tried not to look too much, not to be obvious, but it was impossible not to notice the way he moved on the court. The concentration on his face when he was preparing a serve. The way he smiled when we scored a difficult point. There were times when he'd put his hand on my shoulder to give me technical guidance, and I'd simply freeze. My brain stopped working. My whole body became hyper-aware of that touch, that warmth, that smell of sweat and masculine cologne that made me dizzy. I felt pathetic, because I knew it wasn't going anywhere. Ethan was straight, at least that's what everyone assumed. He went out with girls, had stories of previous relationships, participated in locker room conversations about women. And me? I was just Alex, the mediocre guy on the team who was secretly in love with the captain. A story with no future. A feeling I needed to bury before it consumed me completely. Or worse yet, before someone found out. But then came that Friday. It was a normal practice, intense as always. Everyone sweaty and tired at the end. The coach dismissed everyone. Everybody went to the locker room with that energy of people who are relieved the week is over. I was putting away my things, unhurried, like I always did, when I felt a presence behind me. I turned around and it was Ethan. My heart started racing immediately. "Alex, can you stay a few more minutes?" He spoke in that deep, calm voice of his. "I wanted to talk to you about your performance. I think we can work on some things." My first reaction was pure panic. Had he noticed? Was he going to confront me? Was this exactly what I'd feared most about to happen? But I looked at him and didn't see judgment on his face. Just that calm, professional expression as always. "Sure, Captain," I replied, trying to control my voice. "You can call me Ethan when it's just the two of us," he said, and smiled. That smile made my stomach flip. We waited for everyone to leave. The locker room gradually emptied. The voices and laughter faded away until it was just the two of us. Ethan closed his locker and motioned for me to follow him back to the court. The gym was empty now, silent in an almost solemn way. The fluorescent lights hummed softly, and our footsteps echoed on the wooden floor. It was strange being there without all the chaotic energy of practice, without the shouts, without the ball hitting the floor. "So," Ethan began, grabbing a ball and tossing it to me, "I've noticed you freeze up sometimes. Your technique is good, but it seems like something's blocking you." That was true, but the block had nothing to do with volleyball. I froze up because I was constantly worried about hiding what I felt, about controlling every glance, every reaction, every word. But obviously, I couldn't say that. "I guess I get nervous sometimes," was all I could manage to answer. "Nervous about what?" He looked me straight in the eyes, and I felt like he could see right through me. "I don't know. Performance, I guess. Fear of messing up." Ethan nodded slowly as if processing this. "I get it. Internal pressure. It's tough because it comes from within, right? There's no coach yelling, no opponent in front of you. It's just you against yourself. Let's do this, he continued. I'm going to pass you the ball, and I want you to not think about technique, not think about doing it right or wrong. Just feel the movement, trust your body. Forget I'm here, just you and the ball. It sounded simple, but when he started setting the balls for me, I realized it wasn't. Because I couldn't forget, he was there. My every movement was hyper-aware of his presence, of his eyes watching me, his proximity. But gradually, as we kept training, something started to change. I began to relax. Maybe because for the first time, I didn't have to share his attention with 15 other people. That's it, much better, he said after a particularly good spike. See, when you relax, it flows. I smiled, genuinely proud, and when I looked at him, I saw that Ethan was smiling too. But there was something different about that smile, something I couldn't decipher, an intensity that made me even more nervous than before. Come here, he said, signaling for me to approach the net. I obeyed, my heart racing with each step. When I got close, he placed his hand on my shoulder, exactly like he did during practice. But this time, the touch seemed to last longer, feel heavier, more intentional. Alex, can I ask you a personal question? He spoke softly, almost a whisper. My entire body went on high alert. Sure. Why do you always seem so tense around me? I froze. There was no safe answer to that question. Anything I said could give me away. I tried to smile, tried to seem casual. I get tense? I hadn't noticed. You do. He didn't remove his hand from my shoulder. And it's not just with me, but with me it's more obvious. You get tense, you turn red sometimes, you look away. He paused. You act like you're hiding something. My world was crumbling. This was it. He knew. He'd figured it out. And now he was going to confront me, make it explicit, and everything was going to change. The whole team would know. My life at college would become hell. I'd have to quit volleyball, maybe even change majors. All these thoughts raced through my head in less than a second. I started, but didn't know how to finish the sentence. Look, Ethan continued, and his voice got even lower. I don't want to make you uncomfortable, and if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. But I wanted you to know that this space here, just you and me, is safe. You don't need to hide anything from me. There was something in the way he said that. A gentleness, an openness I didn't expect. And for the first time, I considered the possibility that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't as alone in this madness as I thought. I tried again, and this time my voice came out shaky. I don't know what you want me to say. I don't want you to say anything you don't want to, he replied. I just want you to know you can trust me. Whatever it is that's making you tense, whatever you're carrying alone, you don't have to carry it. Not with me. Those words hit me with a force I didn't expect, because I was carrying everything alone, for months, maybe years. And hearing someone, especially him, say that I didn't have to do that, was like lifting a giant weight off my chest, even if just for a second. I couldn't hold back the tears. They just came, and I hated myself for it, for seeming weak, for exposing myself like that in front of him. But before I could turn my face away, Ethan pulled me into a hug. It wasn't one of those quick locker room hugs, celebrating a point. It was a real hug, firm, tight, long, and I fell apart. I let him hold me while I tried to control my crying, while all that fear and tension I'd been keeping finally found an outlet. It's okay, he murmured near my ear. It's okay, Alex. We stayed like that for I don't know how long. When I finally pulled away, I was too embarrassed to look at him. But Ethan placed his hand on my chin and gently lifted my face until our eyes met. You don't need to be ashamed, he said, of anything. You understand me? I nodded, still unable to form words. There was something in the air between us, something electric and dangerous and absolutely terrifying. Same time tomorrow? Ethan asked, finally releasing my face. We can continue this training. What did he mean by all that? Did he know my secret and was trying to make me comfortable? Or was there something more? And more importantly, what did I want there to be? For the first time, I was considering the possibility that I might not need to hide anymore. The empty gym Ethan had created after practice felt genuinely safe. Maybe I could let my guard down, if only a little. Just maybe. But what I didn't know that night, as I stared at my bedroom ceiling unable to stop thinking about him, was that Ethan wasn't just creating a safe space. He was planning something, and the next day, when I returned for that extra training, I would discover that that hug, that conversation, that closeness was just the beginning, because the real training hadn't even started yet. The next day, I went back to that gym with my heart pounding so hard I was sure the whole world could hear it. I spent the entire day trying to concentrate in class, but my mind was completely elsewhere. Every second dragged as if time had decided to torture me on purpose. And when practice time finally arrived, I was a bundle of nerves. Practice was the same as all the others. Intense, loud, sweaty. Ethan commanded everything with his natural authority, while I struggled to stay focused and maintain my composure. But every time our eyes met, I felt that tightness in my chest, that electricity I could no longer deny. And the worst part was that I was sure he noticed it too. When the coach finally dismissed everyone, my stomach churned. This was it. I was going to stay again, alone with him again, and I had no idea what to expect. Would it be like yesterday? Or had it all been in my head? Maybe he didn't even want me to come back. Maybe that invitation had just been politeness, and I was being pathetic by showing up again. But then he passed by me on the way to the locker room and whispered quietly, just for me to hear, "I'll wait for you on the court." That was enough to end any doubt. He wanted me to stay. He was waiting for me. I waited for everyone to leave, put my things away slowly, trying to control my breathing. When I finally went back to the court, Ethan was already there, his back to me, tossing a ball up and catching it again, in an almost hypnotic rhythm. He turned when he heard me arrive, and that smile appeared on his face. A different smile from the one he used with the team. Softer, more intimate. "I thought maybe you wouldn't come," he said. "Why?" I asked, genuinely confused. "You asked." "Yeah," he laughed softly, "but after yesterday I thought maybe I'd scared you off." I swallowed hard. "You didn't scare me." He looked at me for a few seconds, as if trying to read between the lines of what I wasn't saying. Then he threw the ball to me. "Good, then let's continue." We started the same way as yesterday. Him setting balls for me spiking, him correcting my posture, my timing, my angle of attack. But there was something different this time. The tension was thicker, his touches lingered longer. When he placed his hand on my shoulder to adjust my position, I felt the heat of those fingers going through my shirt, burning my skin. "You're tense again," he murmured, and I could feel his breath near my neck. "I know," I replied, because there was no point in lying. "Why do you get like this around me, Alex?" The question emerged soft and unguarded. I closed my eyes, mustering courage. "You know why?" "I want to hear the words," he pressed. My heart was about to explode. This was real. It was really happening. And I had two choices. Run away from there and pretend nothing was happening. Or finally be honest. Finally stop hiding. I turned to face him. We were so close I could see every detail of his face. The stubble. The sweat still glistening on his forehead. Those dark eyes watching me with an intensity that left me breathless. "Because I like you," I said, and my voice came out firmer than I expected. Not as a player, not as captain. "I like you. For real." I expected anything. Shock, rejection, embarrassment, but what I saw was relief. Pure relief spreading across his face. "Thank God," he whispered. And before I could process what that meant, he closed the distance between us and kissed me. It wasn't a hesitant or careful kiss. It was intense, urgent, as if he too had been holding this in for too long. My hands automatically went to his neck, pulling him closer, and I felt his hands on my waist, firm, secure, real. When we pulled apart, I was trembling, not from fear this time, from pure adrenaline, from relief, from something I didn't even know how to name. "You have no idea how long I've wanted to do this," Ethan said, his forehead resting against mine, still holding me as if I would disappear if he let go. "How long?" I managed to ask. "Since you joined the team. 3 years, Alex. 3 years watching you try to hide. Watching you get nervous around me. Watching you look away every time I looked for too long." He laughed softly. "You're not as good at hiding as you think." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "And you never said anything?" "I couldn't. I'm the captain. You were a freshman. There was the team hierarchy, there was the coach, there was everyone. I couldn't just come up to you and say, 'Hey, I also like guys, and you in particular.'" He pulled back a little to look me in the eyes. "But now you're a junior. We're adults, and I can't stand pretending I don't feel this anymore." "And now?" I asked, because this was too real, too intense, and I needed to know it wasn't just an isolated moment. "Now," he said, running his thumb across my cheek, "we figure it out together." That word, together, did something to my chest, because for the first time in years, I wasn't alone in this. For the first time in years, I wasn't carrying my secret alone. I had someone to share the weight, someone on my side. I had him. We spent the rest of that night talking, sitting in the middle of the court, leaning against each other, talking about everything we'd never said before. He told me about how he discovered he liked men in high school, about how he had to hide it from his conservative family, about past relationships that never worked out, because he always kept a part of himself hidden. I talked about my own journey, about how I spent years trying to fix what I felt, about the loneliness of being in the middle of a crowd but feeling completely isolated, about how it was scary and liberating at the same time to finally admit it to someone. We'll have to be discreet, Ethan said at some point, and I saw the concern on his face. Not because I'm ashamed, but because the team, the environment. You know how it is. I knew exactly how it was. The fragile masculinity, the jokes, the way any display of affection between men was immediately ridiculed or sexualized. It wasn't a safe environment to be open about it. I understand, I replied. I don't want you to lose the team's respect because of me. He held my face with both hands, forcing me to look at him. It's not because of you. It's because of the reality of the world we live in. But this, he pointed between the two of us, this is real. And no one's going to take this away from us, even if they don't know it exists. That's how our routine started. After every practice, we'd stay. Always with the excuse of extra training. Always with the door locked. Always just the two of us. And that empty gym became our refuge, our safe space, the only place where we could be completely honest. But living two lives was exhausting. During regular practices, I had to act like he was just the captain. I had to laugh at the other guy's jokes about women. I had to pretend interest in conversations that meant nothing to me. And every time I looked at Ethan in those moments, I saw the same exhaustion in his eyes. The same mask I was wearing. The weeks went by and it kept getting harder. Not what we had. That was the easy part, the good part. It was the lie that was getting heavy. Every time someone asked why I stayed so long after practice, every time I had to make up an excuse, every time I saw Ethan laughing at some homophobic joke just to avoid raising suspicions, a piece of me died a little. One night, after a particularly difficult practice, I broke down. We were lying in the middle of the court, looking at the ceiling, still trying to catch our breath from everything we'd done besides playing volleyball. I don't know if I can keep doing this, I said. And I felt him tense up beside me. Doing what? Hiding. Pretending. Being one person with you and another person with everyone else. Ethan was silent for a while. When he finally spoke, his voice was heavy. I know, I feel the same way. So what do we do? I don't know, he admitted. And it was scary to hear that from him. To hear that the guy who always had all the answers was as lost as I was. But I know I don't want to lose you, so we'll figure it out. Somehow. I turned on my side to look at him. What if they find out? What if someone notices? Then we'll deal with it when it happens, he said, turning to face me too. But until then, I just want to enjoy this. Enjoy you. Enjoy us. I wanted to believe it was that simple. But part of me felt that this wasn't going to last forever this way. Secrets have an expiration date, and ours was about to expire. Because the next day, when I arrived at practice, I noticed that Julia was looking at me differently. And when Ethan walked past me to grab a ball, she watched. She watched the way I looked away too quickly, the way my face turned red, the way I tensed up. And I knew, in that moment, I knew someone was starting to connect the dots. The clock had started ticking. I didn't expect it to happen that way. We'd been so careful, so discreet. But there's a limit to how much you can hide something that's changing you from the inside. And that night, after practice, I was different. I was radiant. And it didn't go unnoticed. Julia was the first to notice. She walked into the locker room when I was packing my things, and looked at me in that way of hers, kind of sideways, eyebrow raised. You're different, she said. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. I tried to laugh, to play it off. Different how? She shrugged but kept looking at me. I don't know. Lighter, more happy. She paused. Did something happen? My heart raced. I could feel the blood rushing to my face. No, nothing much, just good practice today, right? Julia smiled, but it wasn't a completely convinced smile. Okay, if you want to talk, I'm here, okay? I thanked her and got out of there as fast as I could. But the seed of doubt had been planted, and I knew she wouldn't be the only one to notice. 2 days later, during a team lunch, Sarah made a comment that froze me. We were all sitting at a big table, eating, laughing, and she suddenly looked at me and at the captain, who was at the opposite end of the table, and said, "You two have been talking a lot lately, haven't you?" The silence that followed lasted only a few seconds, but to me it felt like an eternity. I felt all eyes turn to me. "We've always talked," I said, trying to sound casual. "He's the captain. It's normal." "Yeah," she said, but there was something in her tone. "But now it seems different." I didn't know what to answer. I quickly glanced at the captain and saw that he had also noticed the comment, but kept his expression neutral. He changed the subject, started talking about the next game, and the tension passed. But it didn't disappear completely. It stayed there, hovering like a cloud about to burst. That night, he sent me a message. "We need to talk." We met at the same place as always, far from the curious eyes of the team. He was visibly worried. "They're starting to suspect," he said. I nodded. "I know. Sarah said something today." He ran his hand through his hair, a gesture I knew well by now. It was what he did when he was nervous. "We need to decide what to do." "What do you want to do?" I asked, feeling my chest tighten. He looked me in the eyes, and I saw something there that made me breathe easier. It wasn't fear. It wasn't regret. It was determination. "I want to be with you," he said, his voice firm. "But I don't want you to suffer because of it. I know it's going to be difficult. I know some people won't understand. Some will judge. Some will pull away." I felt my eyes stinging. "And you? Are you ready for that?" He took a step forward and took my hand. "I don't know if I'm completely ready, but I know I don't want to lose you. And if we're going to face this, we face it together." It was at that moment that I understood what it really meant to be with someone. It wasn't just about the happy moments, the hidden kisses, the shared laughs. It was about this too, about choosing to face the chaos together, about accepting that love, real love, isn't always easy. It isn't always accepted, but it's real, and that makes all the difference. The decision to come out wasn't made all at once. It was a process. We started slowly. We stopped hiding so much. We talked more openly, and eventually he talked to the coach. I wasn't present at that conversation, but he told me about it afterwards. He said he was direct, honest. He explained that we were together, that it was serious, and that he understood if it caused any discomfort, but that it wouldn't change how he felt. The coach was surprised, of course, but luckily for us, he was an open-minded man. He said that as long as it didn't affect the team's performance, the captain's personal life was his own, and that he expected the same professionalism as always. It was a huge relief, but we knew not everyone would react that way, and they didn't. When the news spread through the team, and these things always spread, the reactions were mixed. Some girls were amazing. Julia, for example, hugged me and said she'd already suspected and just wanted me to be happy. Others were more reserved, but respectful. They kept their distance, but didn't make a point of creating problems. But there were those who didn't take it well. Sarah, who had made that comment at lunch, was clearly uncomfortable. She never said anything directly, but her discomfort was palpable. She began avoiding me, even stopping to pass me the ball during practices. Small actions, but they cut deep. And there were people outside the team too. Comments on social media, strange looks when we went out together, whispers, judgments. There were nights when I cried, nights when I asked myself if it was worth it. If it wouldn't be easier to just go back, pretend nothing had happened, go back to my life from before. But then I'd look at him, see the way he looked at me, the way he held me when I was down, the way he faced all of this with me, without hesitation. And I'd remember why I had chosen this, because it wasn't just attraction, it wasn't just desire, it was connection, it was respect, it was love, the kind you don't find every day, the kind that, when you find it, you hold on to with everything you have. My favorite, chaos. That's what I started calling it, because yes, it was chaotic. It was complicated. It was full of challenges, but it was mine, it was ours, and it was real. Today, a few months later, we're still together. Things didn't become perfect. Some people still don't understand. Some still judge, but most got used to it. And more importantly, we got used to the idea that we don't need everyone's approval. The team is still strong. Our performance didn't drop. Actually, it improved, because we learned to channel all this intensity, all this passion into the game. And it works. And our relationship, it remains exactly the same. Intense, real, filled with both challenges and triumphs. But it's uniquely ours, and I wouldn't change a single moment. Have you ever felt drawn to someone who was completely unexpected, falling outside the neat plans you'd carefully drawn? Have you ever experienced that paralyzing fear of being judged, of potential rejection, of seemingly doing something wrong simply because society deems it unusual? If you have, I want you to know something. You're not alone, and you're not wrong. Love doesn't come with an instruction manual. It doesn't ask if you're ready. It doesn't ask for permission. It simply happens. And when it truly happens, when it's genuine, when it's deep, you have two choices. You can run away from it, out of fear of what others will think, or you can embrace it with everything it brings, the good, the bad, the chaotic. I chose to embrace it, and it was the best decision I ever made. It wasn't easy, and it won't always be. But every time I look at him, every time I feel his hand in mine, every time we laugh at some silly thing that only we understand, I know it was worth it. Because at the end of the day, what matters isn't what others think. What matters is what you feel. And if you feel something real, something true, something that makes you want to be a better person, then that deserves to be lived. Fully. Without fear. Without shame. I'm not claiming your experience will mirror mine, nor suggesting you'll feel exactly the same. But if you are experiencing this now, or have experienced something similar in the past, I want you to understand. There is absolutely nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You're not strange. You're simply human. And humans feel deeply. Humans connect profoundly. And sometimes, these most meaningful connections emerge in the most unexpected moments and places. I don't know what the future holds for us. I don't know if we'll stay together forever, if we'll build a life, if we'll face even more challenges. But I know that right now, I'm happy, and that's all that matters. If this story resonated with you in any way, if you've been through something similar, or if you simply understand what it's like to feel something so intense that it scares you, I'd love to hear from you. Share your story in the comments. Sometimes, just knowing we're not alone makes all the difference. And remember, always, you don't have to decide anything right now. You don't need to have all the answers. But please, don't lie to yourself. Don't hide what you feel just because you're afraid. Because life is too short to live in fear of being happy. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And thank you for letting me share this with you. Until next time, family. And remember, love appears where we least expect it. And when it does, don't let fear win.